All right, Behdad, welcome to the Leaders Who Care series. How are you?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good too. It's Friday. That never hurts. And
It doesn't hurt.
so we're happy to have you. And I think you're gonna share a perspective and a knowledge that I think will be interesting to a lot of people that the four or five people that actually watch us times X. So I'm looking forward to that. Best place to start, as always, is if you could briefly introduce yourself. And I always have to put an asterisk, especially for men, because they always tell me what they do first when they introduce
Yeah.
themselves. But that's actually not the question. The question is stuff like, so where are you from originally, where you are now? Anything you feel comfortable talking about family or a second cousin or whatever. Maybe something you've never told anybody and you want to reveal to the world now. That's always fun, some of the things I get. But share a little bit about who you are.
Yeah. Name's Behdad. I'm based out of Vancouver, Canada. I was born in Toronto, but my parents are from a Persian descent, from Iran. They're both immigrants. And I've lived in Canada most of my life, but I did live in the Netherlands for about a year and a half ago. So got to do that international life out there. And what I do for a vocation, or what like the core of what I really love doing, is just connecting with people and connecting people together. I have a business that connects businesses to marketing agencies. Although I originally started out as an engineer, and now I kind of work as a super connector in that space. And I talk a lot about human connection and reverse engineering human connection. Like, I find one of my superpowers is being able to connect with people and then connecting people together. And it's what I love doing.
Yeah, I connect people to dogs. I think it's a lot more effective, actually. And then the dogs decide if they connect the human to the human because they've got this intuition. Not to get personal, but family. Can you share a little bit about family?
Yeah, I mean, my both my parents came from Iran. My dad, obviously, I don't know if many people know about what's happened in Iran in prior years, right? Like, if you were against the government, you either had to run or get put into jail. So that's how my dad had to get out of Iran. His story is crazy, but he came in as an immigrant, spoke no English, ended up in Portugal. His story of how he got on the plane and over was just insane. And so that's how my parents kind of got here. And then my mom and dad met in Toronto in the first year that they were there. That's where they became together. And then they had me a year later. And so that's the family background. My dad worked three gas station jobs growing up. And then when we were having my brother, he realized, oh, I need to like step this up because this is going to be really, really hard. And so he went and learned how to become an accountant, started his own solopreneur accounting business that he's been running for 25 years. And my mom would work into gas stations and things like that, but mostly was there to like help me and my brother grow up. So she was always around cooking us food, making sure we're taken care of. And so that's kind of like the family that I grew up in.
I
We
love
didn't
it.
have a lot of money.
I
Yeah.
can totally relate. You know, my mom never drove. My dad, I don't even know if he finished high school at the time. And what a story for how immigrants really do bring value to the table, right? And
100%.
and what's fascinating I found is we were maybe middle class type of thing, never owned a home or anything like that, and we were happy. We were happy, with dinner and whatnot. And my mom stayed home also, and but it's just kind of funny. We didn't have a lot, and yet family got together. People, we're happy. We're doing stuff.
Yeah.
Not necessarily the stress of so much more that's available now, even though there's a lot of stress for young people now too, that we had back then. So thanks for sharing that. Maybe we should have him on and tell that story. That'd be good.
Yeah. My dad is an interesting character, I'll tell you.
I love it. Well, I noticed you, education-wise, you went to a school that I'm totally familiar with because I know it fairly well, Simon Fraser. What got you there?
Yeah, I mean, along the side of the immigrants, you got you doctor, lawyer, engineer. Those are the three things you can be. Accounting is kind of like the other fourth one, right? So growing up, I kind of thought, well, I don't want to be a lawyer because I don't like reading a lot of stuff and going into details. I didn't want to be a doctor because that took like 12 years. So I was like, all right, engineering looks like to be about 4 or 5 years. Like, let's go try that out. And SFU had one of the better programs for engineering, and that's kind of what guided me down that path. And yeah, as I was going through engineering, it was never like something I loved doing. But it was just like I always kind of just learned growing up as being the child of immigrant parents. It's like you just got to do things you don't want to do. But the interesting part was going through engineering school, I started realizing and now realize now is like, oh, it's just the process of like how to learn. Like you give an engineer a problem, they'll figure out a solution, and that's literally what engineering teaches you from the fundamental level, right? And now I'm realizing my brain has always been an engineering brain. I just luckily went down that path.
Was it an engineering brain when you were growing up, like as a kid and into a teenager? What were you like?
Yeah, growing up, I mean, I played out a lot. Like, so when I was a kid, I'd be outside like 8, 9 hours a day. So I was like quite active, like playing every single sport. I really loved that. In high school, because of like some of my mom's background, I wasn't allowed out very much. So in terms of like being able to hang out with friends and stuff, I wasn't able to do that. So a lot of my time was actually spent behind the computer, like on MSN Messenger or playing video games. And had to learn how to connect with people through the computer at a very young age because I wasn't able to go to parties and do that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like what it was like for me growing up. I don't know if I had the engineering brain. Like I was really good at math and physics. I just knew sciences were a thing for me. But even at a younger age, like I learned how to connect with people through Messenger, being like, "What's your problem? What are you dealing with? Like maybe I can help." And like I've always been that kind of person. So that's kind of what it was like for me growing up. And then once I got into grade 12, I got access to a car and I got a little bit more free to to hang out with friends and build relationships and that type of stuff.
No, pretty cool. Yeah, I noticed in your background there's engineering a lot, obviously, but to your point, there's a lot of solutions type of um, opportunities that you went for, things you did and whatnot. So when you were a kid, did you build a lot of stuff? Did you play Lego? What did you do?
No, it's like so. I just played a lot of sports. I was like always outside. I
Was
was
it
playing
okay?
like with card games, so like strategy was important to me. Like I really like strategy games, like Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh or whatever. And I never had we didn't have the money as like immigrant parents to go buy packs of like cards and stuff. So I always had to figure out like how do I win the cards I want or how do I get the cards I want through trade. And so it was always like, okay, if I had a problem, my brain would work out solutions. Like it just would naturally do that, and I'd be able to build a pretty cool Pokemon collection set or a Yu-Gi-Oh set from having nothing. Right. Even like when playing like a lot of games was the way that I was like interacting with the world. So it'd be like if you're playing Diablo, and some people know in the audience, but that was one of my favorite games. You have to find ways of getting the right equipment and the right things that you have without having money, right? So um, I was always kind of like, if I had a problem, I was pretty resourceful in being able to solve that problem. Um, that's what it was like for me growing up. I had a lot of energy, so I was outside playing a lot versus then playing with Legos and things like that.
So were you recruited out of Simon Fraser by Teradici, or how did that happen?
So while I was in engineering, you do co-op programs, which is like you get a little bit of internship. And so Teradici was part of the internship program. Once I left SFU, I had about a 6 month stint where I didn't have a job because I went back to Teradici and be like, hey, I would love to be, there was a QA job, like quality assurance engineering. And I was like, oh, I'd love to just like work here and et cetera, et cetera. And it was more for safety and comfort than anything. And
Hmm.
luckily, I had a director at the time that was like, Behdad, your personality is not meant for QA. Like I would actually be doing you a disservice by putting you in this in this role, right? Like go out, figure out where you're supposed to be, but this is not it. And I was like, that's fair. And so I ended up taking a class at BCIT. I forget what I took. I was like, well, if I'm off, I might as well like learn some more stuff. And at the same time, a friend of mine who's older than me on the soccer teams that I used to play on was like, hey, do you want to come work with me while you're trying to figure out the next stage? And so he paid me some, I don't know, it was probably like 20 bucks an hour, 25 bucks an hour, something like that. And I was working on IT stuff. So like just helping with like servers and learning that foundational stuff. And then he offered me a job. And he's like, "Hey, I'll pay you $38,000 a year if you want to keep doing this IT stuff." And luckily at the time, I got reached out to by both TELUS and Ericsson, and they wanted to interview me for roles. I ended up getting offers for both jobs, and I had the opportunity of like go to Ericsson and get paid $68,000 a year and become a software developer, or go to TELUS for $60,000 a year and join their graduate engineer leadership program. And at the time, I was like, money isn't the thing that's going to be driving me. It still isn't the thing that drives me. I thought the experience is more valuable to join the GLP program for TELUS, which allowed you to kind of do three different roles across 3 different years. Like they literally rotate you throughout the company. And that gave me like more breadth and experience of things to learn. And I got to do or I got to work at the innovation center in TELUS, like which is where all the CEOs and things come and new technologies come. I got to be a sales engineer, which is what I ended up ultimately wanting to become. And I got to work with security and outside plant engineering. Like, how do you build the networks within the rings of like the provinces and how they all connect to the backbone of the internet? So I got to do a lot of really cool things that way.
Yeah, it's the reason I ask a lot of these questions, I always find a thread between family and then kids and then how people evolve and stuff. But I also find, and there's a reason we trademarked and talk about leaders who care, that there are, and we'll talk about influencers a little bit later, there are leaders who care along the way that open up things directly or indirectly for us to take certain paths. And the fellow that talked about QA, maybe if you would have taken that, the other thing wouldn't have happened. Things of that nature. And I turned down my dream job to work for a pro hockey team, to take a to be the executive director of a global leadership development nonprofit for way less money. And patriotic Canadian moving to the States wasn't in my plan. But the only person that told me to take the other job for less money was the president of the hockey team that offered me my dream job. And he was
Wow.
right in the long run. So these people make a difference along the way. And it's always something I like to emphasize to people that we're influencers, and I'll say it again later, probably too. We're influencers all the time ourselves, whether we know it or not, with people. And why not? Why not make a positive difference than none or a negative type of difference? Um, I'm not surprised about TELUS, by the way, too, because Bell Canada and Northern Telecom were my clients at Deloitte, so we knew a lot about TELUS too, and a great move to go. So the obvious question after that is, how does CJAM come out of that?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So I wanted to be a customer solutions engineer. That was my goal, become a sales engineer, and I did that. And I really loved that job. Then we had one sushi lunch with a coworker, and it literally just like just like it just shifted the entire trajectory of my life. And so I was sitting with a colleague of mine, and we are having sushi, and he was about 25, 30 years older than me.
hmm
And he said, Behdad, I met this guy. He makes $50,000 a month passively selling SEO to dentists. And I was like, hold on a second. What is SEO? How is this guy making passive income at $50,000? Like, this is just bonkers to me. It didn't hit me at that time, right? When you work corporate, you don't hear these stories.
on
And
purpose. They don't want you to hear it, so you stay.
that's exactly it, right? And so this guy had a 2 hour like video, and now I'm starting to realize it was like a sales letter video and how he built his $50,000 a month in passive income. He had his parents had a dentist office, and he did SEO for them, and it grew to like $2 to $3 million, and all this story, right? And then he's like, I have a course at the end of this video, and I remember standing in front of the TV watching, and I was looked back to my wife, and I was like, I think I'm gonna take this course. What do you think? And she's like, Behdad, if you're gonna do this, you better make some money out of it. Because at that point, I've done things before. I used to be a personal trainer. I did a financial course thing. Like I just do things on the for fun on the side. So I take this $500 course. I learn how to do websites, Google Ads, and SEO, only a little bit. But my engineering brain got like super curious. I'm like, can I do websites at a higher level? How can I do paid ads at a better level? How do I learn more about SEO? And so I spent time learning all that stuff, and I started working with some customers and started building websites for them and doing that kind of stuff. But I realized very quickly I hated doing 80-hour websites on the weekend. I was like, I don't need to make a couple extra grand on the weekend. Like I get paid six figures doing sales engineering, and I like my job.
hmm
Um, and so a friend of mine said, Hey, how about you just send me the business, like the websites you want, and I'll give you a percentage of it. I would have given to my salespeople anyways, and we'll do the work. And I was like, oh, this sounds more like passive income than me actually doing the work.
Yeah.
Um,
The work
so
that
I
you don't
started,
even like,
say that again.
and the work you don't even like.
Exactly. Yeah. So I started passing work off to him. Started getting a percentage for it. I was like, oh, cool. Like I'll keep doing this. And I started realizing as an agency, he was really good at websites, but not good at Google Ads and SEO. And so my brain went into problem solving mode was maybe I can find an agency that can do all of them well. And I started interviewing agencies, working with agencies, and realizing very quickly that one, most marketing agencies don't really understand business, and most businesses don't really understand marketing. It's
Yeah,
a gap.
I saw your post on that. It was good.
Yeah, right. So, and the interesting part about TELUS was I learned about businesses really well. I like worked with over 500 businesses just in TELUS, right? A lot of your work is understanding from a C-level perspective, IT perspective, what's happening, building out technology roadmaps. I didn't realize I was doing the exact same thing now, but just for marketing. And I controlled the service providers at this point.
Hmm.
And so, long story short, I've met with over 1,157 different marketing agencies and experts over 7 years, work with less than 11% in a vetted network, and I'm constantly working on improving it and getting better partners and just doing the matchmaking between businesses and marketing agencies. That's how it all evolved from that sushi lunch.
How did you get them to meet with you?
The agencies?
Yeah.
So I started going to networking events in Vancouver. This was just before COVID. And so I started meeting different agency owners, meeting different people. Then COVID happened. When COVID happened, everything went online. And so all of these agencies and all these people were trying to find business online. And they started seeing me as this marketing connector. And I started saying that. So people started introducing themselves into me. And then some of my mentors would be like, hey, Behdad, you should join this marketing network. You should join this marketing network. Because there's these Slack communities of marketing agencies that the only way you get in is if you're a marketing agency. You can't get in if you're a business. And so my network started growing that way. And as businesses kept asking me for stuff, I started sharing it within different communities and vetting people and learning, and people would just come to me. And that's kind of how my network grew over time.
What a switch from a TELUS type of thing or whatnot. But you were always finding solutions, so I guess that makes sense. I read your post on marketing agencies don't know business, and it kind of troubled me because how do they do what they do if they don't understand business?
That's the question, right? Like, so you have to find like the really good ones that want to integrate themselves into the business, understand the other aspects. It's one of those kind of like stripes I have. Is like if you're a paid ads agency, but you're not knowing like what's happening on the email side or what's happening on the website side, or you're doing conversion optimization or the landing pages, like I think you're only doing half your job. Like every time you hear an agency say like, "Oh, we did X for this company, we grew them from this to that," I'm like, yeah, you were probably a piece of that puzzle, but you're not counting the fact that they built out JV partnerships. They had to figure out operations. They had to do product stuff. They had to hire a bunch of other people and consultants, and they're doing things on the ground. I'm like, you're a small piece of this puzzle, and I need you to understand that. And I want the case studies to reflect that, to be like, hey, we were able to do X, but this is also what happened, right? Like, just be a little bit more honest and truthful is what I look for when I work with agencies.
It's like sometimes when I see a resume and it says like I took the company from zero to $1 gazillion. You did that all by yourself. Way to go. Or they go the other route and they say my team did everything, and they say, well, what did you do? And,
That's exactly it. Yeah, there's a company in Vancouver called 1-800 Got Junk. The number of people that have taken this business to 0 to 100 million is ridiculous. Like I have at least 9 people that's just like I was the reason why this happened. It's like no, like you were part of it. Like let's talk about the part you were a part of.
And I've actually seen the opposite also, where the CFO says, I was active in the financial thing, the things of all these things that happened on this company, but the company went bankrupt." And, I was saying you might want to rephrase this a little bit, and if it's true, you may just want to maybe leave it out. But it is kind of a maybe an unconscious marketing when they say all the stuff they've done. And it's an old story with marketing. What's that old expression? You know where half the marketing budget went, but you don't know if the other half actually had an impact or not because you can't tell. But you should be able to tell just to a good degree what's
Yeah.
going on. It was kind of a cover for marketing agencies where you don't really know, but if we do this, I'm sure it'll help type of thing. So how do you rate them when you recommend them?
Yeah, so I kind of have like a four-step process that I go through with agencies, and then there's like a constant revision. So I'll always jump on a call with an agency owner that's been referred to me through within someone in my network for about 30 minutes. Just get a sense of the agency, why they were built, where they came from, how they structured, like all the little fundamental stuff. And you can tell a lot from a first call like that, especially when you've done over 1,000 of them.
Mm.
And so if I feel good from there, I go, okay, well, we'll go to the next step. The next step is you told me you're good at these services, show me what you do. So if you said you're good at websites, show me the websites you've done, how much you're charging for them, do you do copy, all that stuff. You did paid ads. What does the strategies look like? What do your performance creative look like? Like, tell me how you guys work on what you do. And so I'll typically get like an email with a whole bunch of examples or Loom videos and just get a sense of like how they do things. If that looks good, then I invite them to do a 1 hour long deep dive, and have about 30 to 35 questions I ask these agencies to get even deeper into what they do. And if all of that looks good, then they're invited into my partner network, and that costs money to even get into. So that's like another filter of mine.
Cool.
Once they're there, then it's like, okay, they've been vetted. About 93% of marketing agencies don't make it past this vetting process. There's about 7% that are kind of typically left. And then at that point I do two reference checks, and then it's working with customers. So the customers that come in, I'll tell them, hey, I've worked with this agency X amount of times. Here's what they've done for my other customers. Or, hey, I've only vetted this agency. I haven't used them before. So this would be a brand new experience once you work with them. And then the customers decide who they want to work with, and then they work with them. And then I'm getting feedback once every 1, 3, 6 months to see how the initial start of the projects go. And then I just update my list as I need to if like someone has dropped the ball or hasn't done anything. Um,
You're,
and kind of go from there.
you're like the executive search firm of marketing agencies.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've become.
There's got to be a t-shirt in this somewhere. It says something I can't figure it out. That should be a contest you should do with the marketing agencies that you've selected is what's the best t-shirt of the month type of deal or whatever, and see who comes up with the best saying. Any any off the wall, you can't believe it type of experiences you've had or marketing plays you've seen?
So one customer of mine who was really, really cool. So he was in the pharmaceutical space, and they had this opportunity during COVID with the COVID tests. He's like, Beta, I have an opportunity. I only have like 5 or 6 months to like really like take advantage of this thing. So it's essentially free COVID test comes in through the platform. He then gets up the free COVID test would get sent to a customer, and then they get a kickback essentially from the insurance companies for using it, right? And he's like, I need anyone that you can think of to do this. I need influencer agencies. I need conversion rate optimization. I need whatever you can think of. So I gave him four people, two influencer agencies, a landing page person, and a conversion rate optimization person. Within those 5 months, I found out later, like a year later, he's like, Beta, I made $10 million off that campaign and 3 million was profit. And I'm sitting here going, probably should have had some sort of percentage deal here. Like
Exactly.
this
Or you
guy's
should
like
have
all
should
that
have
no
offered
me.
something, maybe.
But he's
Um,
been one of my best customers. Like he's gone from 7 figures to 9 figures, and he's hired 11 different people from me. So like anytime he needs something, I'm there to support. But that was like one of the coolest case studies, just to see like within 5 months, and when you have the right people, like some crazy things can happen.
so what type of people would he hire from you? Or did he hire from you?
So he hired those two influencer agencies, a fractional CMO, copywriter, email marketing person. Um, he's hired a social media agency for like B2B because he has four different businesses. So it's just like a range of different people. Another FCMO, paid ads, website recently because they're going to go sell like one of their largest companies. And so they're like, hey, we need a website done in 4 weeks. And we have this conference coming up. Can you help us get this done? Getting a website like that done in 4 weeks was not easy. But found the right partner for him and got to do that as well. So just a whole host of
Very
different things
cool.
just based on what he needs.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love it because I have had over the years so many times that someone people have asked me those questions, and I know people here and there, but I'd rather refer them in a case like this where you vetted them, and I don't. Then I present the best people to the clients that are asking for it. But it could be all the stuff you mentioned. Who can help me with social media? Who can help me with a website? Fractional marketing people, a project to do, and or things like that. So it's and considering Canada's involved in this, then you got the upper hand for sure. Because
Yeah,
anything Canada gets priority in my book.
yeah, 100%. I like that.
Um, no, it's super cool with everything that's happening right now in the world, aside from the historical times we're living in with everything going on, but especially with technology and I mean, in our lifetimes, and I'm a little older than you, even beyond that, we've seen so much change, and had to learn so many things. When you look back, it's kind of amazing how much has happened from as a little kid watching a TV and you actually have to stand up to change the channel to everything else that's going on. And
Yeah.
and now AI is probably going to be on steroids compared to that of what we've gone through. What differences are you seeing, good, bad, or otherwise, that are happening out there?
Yeah, when it comes to AI, I'm still kind of like in flux, like most people are. Like you see areas where AI does really, really well, right? When it comes to like operations and getting certain like repetitive tasks off your plate, building out like certain um, workflows that you couldn't build out before because you had no, like you just need a little bit of human logic. And
Mm.
if you had enough of it, that workflow works. Like there's a lot of great things there. But I'm also seeing on the other side, I think a lot of people are using it in ways that they don't realize how it's going to impact their business down the road, right? So people are using AI for building out websites, and it's like, yeah, it looks great to you, but your website also looks like every other website. It's just a new template, right? Or you have a lot of like AI companies being like, oh, I spinned up this new software in a week. It's like this just sounds like drop shipping all over again, where everyone's just trying to make a quick buck and it's going to work short term, but long term, it's not going to work. If you can do something in a week, in another year, it's going to take someone less than a day to do it, and you have no moat. Like most of the business and growing a business comes down to like marketing, sales, positioning, operations. Like just having software doesn't actually do anything, right? Look at all the startups that fail. It's because they can't figure out the other stuff. So I think with AI, it's interesting that we're in a world where we think it's going to do absolutely everything. My guess or my hypothesis right now around AI is I think it has a limit. I don't know if it'll hit consciousness. If it hits consciousness, then at this point, like everything I say is off the wall. But I think it has a limit, and I think if the limit is like it thinks at the maximum level of someone who is 18 years old, and if you have the right person commanding it and prompting it and knowing what to do because they're the specialist, maybe you can get it up to like, someone that's 24, 25 years. But I really do think there's a limit to it. And what's going to matter more and more is the strategy that people put behind it and the strategic thinking you have behind it.
Yeah, I think you're right. A lot of people I think agree. There's going to be a lot of changes, but the human element, the creative part of the element, the emotional part of the human element, especially in marketing and the like, is critical. And it's it one of my favorite quotes of all time. I think it's probably my favorite quote of all time is Maya Angelou that says, "Most people forget what you've said, they'll forget what you've heard, but they'll always remember how you made them feel." And if you can make them feel, there's a much better chance they might hear what you say and all that. And so we got to hope that is still still in play. I always loved. You ever see the movie Her,
Yes.
where he falls in love with? It's actually Scarlett Johansson. Who can fall in love with that voice? But I mean, but it's quite amazing that we're in a time a little bit where people are, for good and bad, falling in love in good or bad ways with AI, if you will, and what happens. And so if you want to see a good movie, not to get too distracted time-wise here, great movie on Netflix called Mercy right now. It's about a justice system that was now made into AI as the justice system, and what this guy goes through who's been accused of murdering his wife and what he goes through. It's a spectacular movie on AI and human element at the same time. So check it out. Like I'm a stock, I have stock in the movie or something. But well, last question, because in LA we say we got to keep them wanting more so we can do a sequel. So last question. With everything that's happened, you mentioned COVID before, and we're already 6 years past that, even though some people feel like it was still here, type of deal. It's amazing. What are you most grateful for, and what are you most hopeful for?
So for me, what I'm really grateful for and most hopeful for is just the human connection aspect. Like I'm noticing like more and more people want to connect with humans.
Yeah.
Like even though we're going down this path of like AI and COVID and we all become so disconnected, as I dive more and more into human connection, I realize how insanely important it is just to like be across from someone and being able to talk to them through video or even in person. I'm really excited for us to get more and more touch with one another. And I'm seeing more and more people spend more time learning about themselves and understanding who they are. And as they do that, what it allows for that to happen is they get to open up to others and others will open up to them. And now we're building deeper connections than I think we've ever have.
Yeah, I think people are craving it, to be honest. I agree. They're craving it. And um, just to have that energy that happens when you do meet in person. I mean, thank God for Zoom and things like that, because during COVID, it would have been horrendous not having that as well. So technology is always good. However, we're social animals, and we need that type of energy there. Well, I'm grateful I'm grateful I have a new friend. That's a good place to start.
Yeah.
And that you're Canadian. Double grateful for that. And 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 I'm also hopeful for the fact that you are a leader who cares and doing some good stuff out there and making a difference, because again, I think it's desperately needed right now. to for people to care and not the opposite, not fear or hate, along the way. So thanks for that, and thanks for being part of the Leaders Who Care series.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm glad to have a great friend as well.
Thanks, man.